June has ended, so once again it's time for my favorite iOS games of the month. This particular installment includes 2 really high-profile titles that no one should be missing out on, as well as 3 indie titles worth taking a look into. To begin with is a game that probably doesn't need an introduction if you've been paying attention to the app market this past month, and that's Fallout Shelter. This game was announced and released during Bethesda's press conference as a part of hyping up Fallout 4, and it did a pretty damn good job of doing it. The game is completely free to play, and it does feature some in-app purchases, but they are pretty much entirely ignorable. The entire idea is that you are building up and protecting your very own vault. You invite who ends up living in it, what their tasks are. It's kind of this very interesting mixture of XCOM and Sims. As your vault gets larger and larger, you'll start to unlock a lot of different specialty rooms, and you'll be able to send out your vault dwellers into the wilderness to see how well they survive and how much cool loot they can bring back. For a completely free-to-play game, the amount of time you can get out of this game is absolutely massive, and it's high quality to boot. It does get a bit tedious near the end of the game once you've played it for so long, but for how much fun you get out of it, for how little you had to invest, this is easily one of the best games to pick up that has come out in quite some time. Now, getting into the slightly more indie-ish games, we've got Blades of Brim. Now, this is a very, very obvious entry in the very dense genre of iOS games that are endless runners, all based on the Temple Run formula, but this one does quite a bit to help make itself a little more different. Now, as you'd expect with an endless runner, most of the game is built around just simply going down a hallway that never ends while trying to avoid death and getting some cool loot along the way. This game introduces a lot of other elements, however, including things like wall running, finding mini-dungeons with their own little objectives to collect treasure, and of course having to fight off waves of enemies and encountering special enemies that might take certain tactics and timing to take down properly. This game has a whole lot of unlocks you can find, including armor that can up your defenses, weapons to up your damage, pets that you can summon and ride to gain temporary bonuses, and of course different playable characters to choose from. What's great about this is that while the game does have in-app purchases and is very susceptible to you just pouring a lot of real money to get easy unlocks, it's never really that required. You can get through most of this game and take your time unlocking all the different stuff without ever having to resort to your credit card. The option's there, but you don't have to do it. As I said, this does come from a very dense genre, but Blades of Brim is definitely one of the best games to make itself stand out as something a little bit more than just another clone. Third up, we've got a bit more of a slower paced and really relaxing game, and that's Lines. Now, this is a puzzle game where the very simple idea is all you're trying to do is make your color beat out all the other colors for filling in lines. However, how you accomplish this is done a couple different ways. Some puzzles early on will have you just simply place dots where you want to spawn colors, other areas will have you erase dots of the opposing type to try and get an advantage, and others even have you create your own lines in order to create shortcuts for your lines to fill more colors with. Now, the base puzzle concept is pretty solid, but what really makes this game appealing is the aesthetic. It's not only really great looking, but it's got a wonderful soothing soundtrack, and the music reacts to what you do in the game. Whenever you add a point, reduce a point, it makes a tone. Whenever your lines clash with other lines, it produces a note. So everything that happens in the game, the music will react to, which just makes it a lot more engaging. It may be very simple, but there are plenty of puzzles, and it's also easily replayable with how each of the puzzles is slightly randomized every time you do it. So if you're just looking for a game to pick up and play every now and then when you want to pass time very calmly, this is an excellent choice. Now, fourth up, and the last of our more indie-ish titles, is Woriam. Now, this is one of those games where when you first pick it up, it looks really, really simple and honestly very kiddie. But it ends up being quite the opposite once you get not that much farther into it. The gameplay is actually a lot more complex and difficult than it first appears. When you start off, it almost looks like just a simple worm game, where all you have to do is go through tunnels and eventually fill the whole thing. However, you've got this annoying little worm chasing you while you do this, and the worm doesn't just simply follow you, it'll actually sometimes divert and take different courses to try and cut you off. Now, while you can make turns to go down different corridors, you can never completely reverse your direction, so a lot of times you'll find yourself thinking you're safe, then it'll head you off at one pass and completely screw you over because you just watch yourself slowly go towards it in a head-on collision. This game takes a lot more timing and thinking than you would initially think, which made me absolutely fall in love with it. It's a great looking game, really fun, appealing to both adults and kids, and really, really hard once you get into the later stages. Now, last up is a game that I absolutely could not leave off this month's list. It was one of my favorite games to come out on PC and PS4 in 2014, and that's Transistor. The port job for this game was done excellently. Not Not only does it run smoothly and look great, but the control scheme really makes sense. All you have to do is tap where you want to move, choose what moves you want to actively be using when you attack enemies, and then tap on enemies to attack. You can, of course, also pause time to queue up several moves back to back, which is really how you're going to spend playing most of the game, so it works out perfectly on iOS. The only real thing that ends up being a slight issue compared to playing it on other systems is that if you want to do really tricky, fast movements like weaving back and forth, that can get a little difficult with tap controls. It is something you can do, it's just not as easy and intuitive as it would be with a controller. That minor gripe aside though, this port has been done beautifully. If you didn't get a chance to play this game on PC or Mac and you don't have a PS4, this is a game you absolutely must pick up and try. It is a little pricey for an app game, but completely worth it. Well, those are my favorite iOS games of June 2015. As always, there were a whole lot more games that came out that didn't make the list, so if there's one that you love that I didn't mention, make sure to let me know down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button to let me know, and make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. I'll be seeing you guys soon with more content, but until then, I'm Kevin Kenson, and I'll see you guys later.